Do you want to 10x your productivity, achieve inbox zero, think of each task you complete, no matter how mundane, as a win, and gratuitously replace the monosyllabic word use with the polysyllabic word leverage? Then this video is not for you. This video is instead for my devoted well-wishers, also known as anyone who has used my affiliate link to sign up for a 7-day free trial of Heptabase. That link is below in case you're looking to do me a solid. This video will be of use to anyone who wants an introduction to tagles in Heptabase. Tagle is my extremely clever way of referring to the fact that tags in Heptabase are also tables. I'm going to show you how to turn this into something like this. I'm also going to show you how to use the cool filter and sort features that were added to Heptabase tables a week or so ago. If you've been wondering how tags and tables work in Heptabase, and especially if you want to use Heptabase for research, you're going to want to watch this video, which I can pretty much guarantee will 1x your productivity and very slightly increase the quality of your life. Tags in Heptabase are a little strange. They're a little like what are called super tags in Tana, for those of you who are familiar with that app. Basically, a tag added to a card in Heptabase assigns that card to a database, with that database taking the form of a table, though it could also take the form of a Kanban board. How do you create a database to add cards to? You first create a tag. Let's do that by going to the top left corner here and clicking on Tag. Then let's click on New Tag. And I'm going to give this tag the name of Research. And since table is already highlighted here, I don't want a Kanban board, I'll go ahead and hit the create button. And as you can see, the tag that I just created is here. If you ever want to change the name of a tag, just click on the 3 dots here and then you can edit the tag name. You can also delete a tag if you want. So I'm going to click on research here. Now, as you can see, this table currently has just a single column. This column will always display the title of a card in Heptabase. To create a new column, click on this plus sign here and select Create New Property. I should point out here that the properties you see listed below are ones I have set up in other tables. So if you're at the point where you're creating your first table in Heptabase, you won't see anything underneath this Create New Property option. So again, select Create New Property here, and the kind of property I think you should choose for this column is multi-select. And now that I've chosen the type of property that I want, I'm going to go ahead and give it a name, and the name I'm going to give it is Type. This is going to be the column that shows whether a card is an author card, an article card, a book card, and so on. One thing I should make clear here is that the types that I'm about to create in this column are completely separate from the default types in Heptabase. You can see all of the default types by going to the card library and then selecting card type, and there you can see all the default types. So the types that I'm about to create in the research database, none of those are going to get added to these card types here. Now, since I already know what types I want to be able to select from each time I create a new card and assign it to my research database, I'm going to create all of them now. So I'm just going to click here in the column, and the first one I'm going to create, and I like to use emojis for this. I'm using keyboard shortcuts that I set up using Keyboard Maestro for the Mac. So the first one is going to be article. I'll hit return. Second one is going to be author. Next one's going to be a book. So create book, and what comes after book? Claim. So I've got these things in my research database that are called claim cards. You can think of those as kind of like what some people will call permanent notes in a Zettelkasten. I won't be going into detail about claim cards in this video. And then a podcast. And then here I'm going to create what I call basically key questions. And the last one I'm going to create here is for video. Now I like these to all just be the same color. I'm going to select, since I'm in dark mode, white is actually turns it into gray. So I prefer that these all be gray. All right, so the type column is done. That's the one that takes the longest to set up. The next column I'm going to create, I'm going to select as the property, multi-select again. And I'm going to call this one topics. You could just as well call this tags, so long as you keep in mind that these tags are not what Heptabase calls tags. Now, if you have a handful of topics you know you're going to want to tag cards with, feel free to add those now, but you can wait to create topics to put here until you're actually doing research. I'm going to create one more column that I like to have here. This is going to be a column for when the card is created. And so for this one, I'm going to select date, and I'm going to give this the name of date created. The next thing I'm going to do is create views for each of the card types I created earlier. This way, if I want to look at all of the articles in my research database, for example, I can simply click on the articles view I'm about to create and see all of the articles listed there. And if I want to find articles just on a certain topic or set of topics, I can use the filter feature here, and I'll show you how to search for topics using that feature a little bit later in this video. Okay, so I'm going to click on this new view button, and the name, I'm going to keep the view as a table, and the name I'm going to give to it is articles. And now that I've created that, I'm going to go over here and set up a filter, and all is already selected. For our purposes, we could use any as well, but I'll just keep it as the default all. I'll click on add filter rule. And what I want to do is I want to filter this table by type. That is to say, I want only certain types of cards to appear in this particular view. So once I select type, this automatically changes to contains. There's some other options you could choose, but we'll just leave it as contains. And then the option that I'm going to select is article right here. So whenever I add an article to this research database, it will end up appearing here in this view. It'll appear in this view over here, this default view on the leftmost side. But if I want to see only articles, then I would click on this view. Oh, and then one other thing, let's sort this table. So I'm going to click Add Sort, and I would want these articles to be listed in alphabetical order. So I'm going to just keep this set here as name and keep this as ascending. So ascending is basically more or less alphabetical in most cases, and descending would be reverse alphabetical. And now we're done creating that first view. I'll now create views for all the other card types, doing more or less the same thing. All right, I have created all the different views that I want. Things are a little cramped here. You can see that it's only showing some of these views. If I close this out, it will reveal some more. I should probably maximize this. Yeah, so if you don't have a really wide screen, you're not going to be able to see all the views that you've created. But there they are up here, and I've got this. This one is, I want these alphabetical, so you can just basically move these over, and there we have it. Now, one thing I should say here, the claims that I have in my own research database that we're going to look at pretty soon, I have them listed, I have them sorted alphabetically. Sometimes what I want to see is claims that I have most recently worked on. And one way you could do that is you could create a date modified column, and then if you want, sort based on the date that it's been modified, but you would have to add that date modified each time on your own. And what's easier at this point is just go over to the card library, and then you could select the particular database that you want. In this case, my research database is called Me Thinking. And then I can go ahead and create a custom view that's going to show just my claims or my claim pages. And then I can add, as I've already done here, as you can see. So I've got the tag is my Me Thinking database, which is my research database. And then I've selected keyword here, and I've put the green dot at the front. And then the sort feature is over here. So right now it is listed as sorted by the time it was updated or modified, and it is sorted in an ascending order. And so what we have here are all of my claim pages listed based on when they were most recently modified or updated. Now, there are some false positives here. That is to say, every once in a while there's going to be a card in here that's not actually a claim page, but it's listed here because maybe it has a reference to a claim page. So this is not a claim page. This would be one of my book cards. But somewhere within this note, there's a green dot. So that's why it's showing up in this list. But for the most part, it's just showing me my claim pages, which is a nice option to have. What I've shown you in this video is what I currently think is the best way to set up a research database in Heptabase. You might want to do things differently. So I'm going to conclude by comparing 3 alternative ways of setting up Heptabase for research to the way that I have shown in this video. And in doing that, I'm going to go ahead and show you what my own research database looks like. So the first alternative would be that if you want, you could create separate tagles and thus separate databases for articles, authors, books, and so on. So I have one here just so you can kind of see what it might look like. So you might think it would be nice to have a database that just lists all the books, and the properties or the columns that you would create here would be for the author, for the publisher of the book, the year that the book was published, the topics that the book is related to, and then maybe the format that you have this book in. Now, there is a potential problem with doing things this way, which is that currently, and perhaps in the future as well, the databases you create using tagles are siloed off from each other. And when the tagles are siloed off from each other, you can't filter and search all of your research-related stuff at the same time. With the way I've set things up, and here we're now looking at my own research database, if I want to run a search for everything in my research database that relates to a particular topic, I just click over on the leftmost view over here, and then use the filter option to search for material related to whatever topic I decide I want to filter by. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the filter. I'm going to add a filter rule, and let's say that what I want to do is look for all different types of material I have in this database that relates, say, to the topic of happiness. So I click on that, and there it gives me everything I have that I have tagged with happiness. And then if I want to get rid of that view, if I want to go back to the regular view that shows absolutely everything that's in the database, I simply go in here and then X this out. Now, if I instead had separate databases for all of the different types of material, all the different types of cards in my database, then I would have to go to one database, run a search for, say, a particular topic, move on to the next database, run a separate search, and so on. Moreover, it's currently the case that you wouldn't be able to get around running separate searches within your separate databases by running a search within the card library. Because at this point, there is no option within the card library view to filter by whatever topics you create. My guess is that such an option will be made available in the future, but I'm not absolutely certain about that. Now let's consider a second alternative. Instead of putting everything into one database, you could create 2 databases, one for your sources and one for your ideas. So in the research database that I showed you how to create in this video, the sources constitute most of the card types. So an article is a source, a book is a source, podcast is a source, and a video is a source. The ideas database would instead consist of claims and key questions. The reason to separate a sources database from an ideas database would be that sources and ideas have some non-overlapping properties. For example, for a claim card, there would be no reason for me to have a column for publisher or published or format. Those make sense only for books and articles. Maybe to some extent you might say for videos and podcasts as well. Now, if you decide you want to do things this way, that is, have 2 separate databases, that's fine, but just keep in mind that at this point in Heptabase's development, you would still need to run separate searches in your sources database and your ideas database if you're searching for, say, material related to a certain topic. The third and final alternative to consider is to have 2 or more databases and then assign a card to more than just one of those databases. For example, you could have both a taggle for research as well as a taggle for sources. I'm going to create a card and show you what happens when I add those 2 taggles to a card. So we'll just call this a fake card. And then when I select the tags, I'm going to select both research, and when I've done that, you can see that I've got these 3 properties that you find as columns in my research table. And then when I select, I'll select book in this case, then we get those other properties populated as well. And for some of you, doing things this way might amount to the best of both worlds. The reason I don't do things this way is that I find it tedious and unnecessary to fill out all of these fields for books and articles. I have a citation manager that does that work, namely Zotero. Now, rumor has it that Heptabase will eventually set up a Zotero integration, but even if it doesn't, this information here is information I don't need in Heptabase, so I have no need for a separate sources taggle, or book taggle in this case. That's it for this video. If you have any questions or think you might have a better way of setting up a research database in Heptabase, let us know in the comments section beneath this video. If you want to take Heptabase for a spin, please consider using my affiliate link, which is also beneath this video. Oh, and hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you.